It's happening again as the Oilers goaltending is under the microscope yet again, not just in the Edmonton media, but all around the hockey world there to kind of figure out what the Oilers are going to do with their goaltending as general manager Stan Bowman not only gives his thoughts on the goaltending, but also on the team as a whole through 17 games and how could the Oilers potentially upgrade in the crease position. We will get that all more today here on Oilers Digest as the Oilers kick off their 7-game road trip against the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. And it's a back-to-back, and they take on the Columbus Blue Jackets tomorrow night, but we will focus ahead towards the Flyers game tonight. Make sure you subscribe here to the channel. As almost 72% of you watching these videos here on Oilers Digest haven't hit that subscribe button down below there, so as you're giving me your thoughts down on the team down in the comments section down below. If you haven't already, folks, make sure you hit that button to subscribe to the channel. Now, for the Oilers in the goaltending, beating that dead horse over and over and over again there. I mean, the team as a whole, I can agree with, a lot of, the Oilers, the media, the Edmonton media on their view surrounding the Oilers. Sure, the offense isn't quite there. The defense, could be a little bit better in the goaltending. We know is the goaltending, but how could that come in the form of a fix here from David Pagnotta of the fourth period, saying it's not going to be easy, whatever they try to do. They don't have cap space now for a quick fix. Even if they do make a goalie change and Skinner's is the guy out, it's $2.6 million. If you want an impact goalie, you're probably looking at $5 million plus, and they just don't have the space for it. And that was on an interview 2 days ago there. And of course, a lot of replies from Oiler fans saying that's just, making excuses for the Oilers management there. You don't have to, defend the Oilers management too, which I can agree. But again, all 31 NHL franchises know, the trouble that the Oilers are falling into there, and that just makes the price for a goaltender that much more higher in the long run there. As much has been made about the goaltending struggles in Edmonton as the club ranks 28th in goals against per game with 3.47, but they're also in the bottom half of the league for goals for per game with 3.06 there. So, the offense isn't quite clicking the way we'd want it to. I mean, you could owe that to, Kris Knoblauch's system of trying to, sort of limit the, the offensive explosions per game there to try and play a more subdued defensive style game. But as we saw from Connor McDavid, you can't just, harness that power for very long there. You have to let him run free once in a while, and that's what we saw against the Columbus Blue Jackets. I mean, if that didn't happen, the Oilers, would have walked away with 0 points instead of the 2 points in the overtime win on Monday. But Stan Bowman offering his viewpoint here on the team with some very, very interesting comments saying our goalies have been average. I don't know what average means to Stan Bowman, but apparently the Oilers goaltending is average according to the main man himself. Haven't been elite, which, I can agree with. I don't agree with, they've been average, and they haven't been bad, which I also disagree with sort of the way our team has been. I don't know if they performed really any differently than our forwards in our defense. We're not just clicking as a group. Unfortunately, it takes time to sort through that and have everyone find their roles, but we're not connected the way we probably should be after 17 games, which, most of that is, fair analysis, but for Stan Bowman, again, you don't expect him to throw his goalies under the bus, but I mean, to say, they've been average and haven't been bad, I don't know what games he is watching, because, those two, night in and night out, sure, Stutzker had the shutout against the New York Rangers, but hey, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while there, and that's what happened with Skinner. But the question remains, how could the Oilers potentially fix their goaltending? Well, in a dream world, I'm not saying anything's going to happen imminently here with Juuse Saros, but I mean, Nashville is struggling this year, and Edmonton, could work a deal with Nashville. We all saw it done with the Ekholm deal back in the trade deadline of 2023. Juuse Saros, 30 years of age there, but the only downside is the cap hit there, $7.74 million. So the Oilers would have to make that work some way, somehow there. And again, Nashville and Saros not off to the hottest of starts there in 14 games played. He's got a goals against average of 3.11 and a save percentage of .892 there, with a goal saved above expected of minus 0.93. So, part of me is saying, okay, have, his glory days been past him already? Is UC Saros, on the downslope of his career? I don't think so. I mean, we've all seen it happen with Saros over the past couple of years. Just take away, this year and the year prior there when the Nashville Predators, after getting, guys like Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos, they were supposed to be, one of the big wigs of the Western Conference. That wasn't quite the case there, but I mean, Saros is a couple years removed of, multiple 900 save percentages there, 906, 919, 918, 927, 914, so on and so forth there. So there still is some magic hopefully left in UC Saros there. And again, he's only 3 years older than Stuart Skinner there, so it's not like a massive discrepancy in age there. The only downside is if Skinner is moved, then that means it's a Saros in Pickard situation. So if Saros struggles, we're back to square one here with trying to rely on Calvin Pickard to get the job done, unless the Oilers realize that, hey, Connor Ingram is ready to be called up to the big leagues there. So I would rather a Saros in Skinner tandem, but the money just is not there. So that's the only downside to this situation here. Would a goalie change be amazing? Would I welcome UC Saros? Absolutely. But again, there's the downside in the back of your mind saying, hey, if Saros falters, just like Skinner did, then you have to rely on Calvin Pickard. And of course, the shakeup target would be Saros, but to make the money work, the Preds would need to take on Adam Henrique, who unfortunately has a no-move clause there, and I don't think he'd want to waive it to go to Nashville. Stuart Skinner in retained money. The Preds would have to retain money on Saros. The additional cost of the Oilers would come in draft picks, and young NHL-ready talent would unfortunately be either one of Ike Howard or Matt Savoy. I can't imagine the Predators, not wanting one of them in a move for UC Saros. So it just falls back on the Oilers management, not finding the right type of deal for a goaltender, because of course every other team in the NHL realizes, hey, we could, shake Edmonton for everything that they have when it comes to a goalie trade there. And the Oilers probably just haven't found anything that suits their liking here for a goalie trade. Should this, change closer to the trade deadline, as we've kind of know where both Edmonton is at and multiple other teams around the NHL? Absolutely. But for right now, I wouldn't think anything would be imminent surrounding a goalie trade there, despite, me and everybody else, on Twitter and all the other social media sites that are saying, hey, this is what the Oilers need. The offense and defense will eventually get back to where we would expect them to be, but it's just the goaltending. On any given day, you have to shake, a magic 8-ball to see how they would perform that night. It's the box of chocolates in the NHL. You never know what you're going to get with either Pickard or Skinner. And Stuart Skinner will get the start tonight in Game 1 of the back-to-back here for the Oilers as they take on the Flyers tonight and the Blue Jackets tomorrow. So we would expect to see Calvin Pickard get the other start tomorrow against the Blue Jackets. Well, Oilers-Flyers there. The Oilers don't have to deal with John Tortorella, but they will have to deal with Rick Tocchet there. So another defensively minded coach to another there in Philadelphia Flyers, which kind of goes against, the whole, young star mantra in Philadelphia. They have all these youngsters there, Matvei Michkov. But, just bringing in, a coach to rein them in with Rick Tocchet there. Taking a look at the Oilers lineup for tonight. This is the projected lineup, of course, with Matt Savoy, Connor McDavid, and Andrew Mangiapane, with Vasily Podkolzin, Leon Draisaitl, in Jack Roslovic, Ike Howard, Adam Henrique, and Trent Frederick, and then Matisse Janmark, Noah Philp, in Curtis Lazar. So we will probably see Zach Hyman tomorrow night against the Columbus Blue Jackets there. He will not play tonight against the Flyers. And on the back end there, Matthias Ekholm in Evan Bouchard, and then Darnell Nurse and Jake Wallman, and then Brett Kulak in Ty Emberson is in for another game there with Stuart Skinner getting the start tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers. Now with the Oilers, building off that big win against the Columbus Blue Jackets, was it the prettiest win? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, we only realized the 2 points in the standings and not how we got there. There were a lot of positives. One, I thought our defensive play was a lot better. I thought we gave up fewer chances, which was the focus going into the Columbus game. I like that we dug in with some late goals to tie it up in the third period. A hell of a bounce there for Jake Wallman to tie the game late in the third period. They're shorthanded, of course, and obviously won in overtime. But a lot of things are to be improved on, and a lot of it is just execution with the puck, so we can move up the ice better collectively for some more scoring chances there. So Knoblauch trying to emphasize the fact that, hey, you don't score if you don't get, the odd man rushes there, instead of, going into the offensive zone and then curling back and looking for a pass to the defenseman who takes a floater on net, and nothing comes from that at all there. So Knoblauch sort of going back on his philosophy going into the season there, with trying to prioritize, possession over shots. But I mean, the Oilers, they're a running gun team at the end of the day here. You can't fit a square into a circle here. We know what the Oilers are capable of, so hopefully Kris Knoblauch can realize that as well there. And Andrew Mangiapane, after his brutal third period giveaway in the Columbus game, realizes, hey, the Oilers have potential here to get back on the good side of things here, and we got to build off of our last game and how we played in that third period and just keep rolling. It's time we put together a little run here. It's a long road trip, and this is the first game, so we want to start on the right foot here against the Flyers. And of course, the Flyers, they are second in the NHL for expected goals for, and first in the league for expected goals against. So what does that mean? It's going to be a low-scoring game here, as, Rick Tocchet style of hockey. Try to prevent everything, and in the meantime, stifle your own offense as well. And with the firepower that the Philadelphia Flyers have, I mean, sure, whatever floats your boat there. Talking with Trevor Zegras, Sean Couturier, and Matvei Michkov, Tyson Forrester, Kate and Brink, and then Tippett, Dvorak in connecting, and then Grbinkin, Abels, and Garnet Hathaway there with Cam York and Travis Sanheim, Nick Seeler and Jamie Drysdale, and then Nick Andre and Noah Juleson there on the back end there. So, the Flyers on paper, they seem a lot better than, what those expected goals for in against sort of dictate regarding the whole Flyer team. And unfortunately, Dan Vladar gets the start tonight for the Philadelphia Flyers here. I was hated when he faced off against the Oilers when he was a Calgary Flame there. A 3-2-0 record in 5 games with a goals against average of 2.42 and a save percentage of .921 against the Oilers in his career there. And taking a look at the Flyer standings here, fourth in the Metropolitan Division, but I mean, that division is so tight there, with the Devils sitting at 23 points and the Blue Jackets sitting at 17. So you never know what you're going to get with any of these Metro teams here. The Oilers have already played a good chunk of these teams here. But that is it for today's video, folks. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the whole goalie situation there. Who do you think the Oilers will try to go for? Do you think they'll do it soon, or do you think they'll wait until closer to, or perhaps on the trade deadline? Again, let me know down in the comments. And while you're down there, if you haven't hit subscribe already to Oilers Digest, make sure you do so. But folks, let's get a win streak going here. We're at 1. Let's start with the second win against the Philadelphia Flyers tonight there, and then hopefully they can climb up the rocky steps at the end of the night. But take care. Let's go Oilers. Let's hear some La Bamba tonight, folks. I'm Matt.